Alright, what's going on? For this Digiexplanation, I've chosen to look at Laura Brunelli's presentation, just because I found it pretty interesting. So first up, we need a little background on chytridiomycosis. Chytridiomycosis is a fungal pathogen caused by the fungus Batrachochytrium dendrobatitis, which is this nasty little bugger here. What it does is it gets into a frog's skin, causes all sorts of problems. Frogs can't perform their normal physiological functions, and they usually just die. Now, what Laura was researching was looking at a frog species' levels of immunity to perhaps improve reintroduction success of frogs threatened by this disease. She also looked at factors influencing reintroduction and translocation success in the endangered frog Latoria varroii alpina. Most reintroductions, she said, were unsuccessful due to poor site choices, predation, or a persisting threat. So she wanted to look at just how effective reintroductions actually are. Seeing as how any frog reintroductions will inevitably come into contact with chytrid, she wanted to look at whether manipulating some kind of immunity could improve a reintroduced species' survival. So here's what she did. She took some alpina egg masses and tadpoles from 3 populations and raised them into frogs. These 3 frog populations exhibited different levels of immunity to chytrid. So by collecting the egg masses from different areas, she could test whether genetic factors affected the frog's survival. So once the frogs were old enough, she marked them and released them all into one of 4 sites, 2 with extant populations and 2 where populations had become extinct. So she monitored the sites, did all the important swabbing and measuring and whatnot, and what she found was that the frogs she released, who were from populations known to have BD, had a similar survival rate to the extant frogs, but the frogs from populations who were BD naive had lower survival rates. She also found that her frogs were breeding at all sites, but only small proportions of the frogs returned to breed again the next season. This suggests that the frogs were perhaps breeding once and then dying, most likely due to chytrid or an increased susceptibility to predation. So in all, she found that exposure history to BD does play a role in the survival of frogs. She said there may either be selection for a resistance to the disease, or because the frogs seem to only breed one season before dying, maybe there will be selection for better breeding success. So potentially, reintroducing and translocating species can be effective if it's used on a suitable species, but all parameters need to be looked into first to make sure that the animals being released aren't just going to succumb to whatever it is that wiped them out in the first place, or get taken out by predators before they can establish. Thank you.